Nick Zeigler has been my friend for as long as I can remember. And one of my very early recollections is that we shared the stage in our debut performances at ages 5 and 9 approximately. It was the dance recital. Nick was the pirate, and I was one of the jewels in his sea chest. But my best recollection by far is when I was accompanist and choral director for his musical Presley's Crossroads, which was produced at the Florence Theater. It was either the very late 40s or the early 50s. It's an absolutely delightful, witty satire on South Carolina crossroads politics. Nick wrote the script, he wrote the lyrics, he used music from an old Gilbert and Sullivan operetta that was in the public domain. He directed the play, and he played the lead role of Mr. Presley, and it was absolutely a resounding success. So I look at Nick and I see writer, actor, director, artist, teacher, lawyer. Anything he has ever set his hand to, he's excelled at. And to me, that's the epitome of a Renaissance man, which I think he is.
Nick Zeigler has been an amazing supporter of the Florence County Library System. Because of that support and his friendship and guidance over the past 5 years, our library system has become the envy of all counties in South Carolina. Nick, no one is more qualified to accept this honor than you. Your support of this community, this library system, has been amazing, as your life has been. And I congratulate you on this well-deserved honor.
First of all, I want to thank the School Foundation for honoring Nick Zeigler. Nick and his wife Ann and family have been longtime friends of my late wife Tunky and all her family. And then his daughter Helen was my general counsel when I was governor, and a very bright person who contributed a lot to state government herself. Nick and I are great friends. He's really a hero of mine. We served in the state senate for 5 or 6 years together, and it was during a time when we were all trying to revise the 1895 Pitchfork Van Tillman Constitution. The state needed some changes, major changes. Nick and I were into that, court reform, home rule, prison reform, education reform, the arts and education, all those things. Nick was a leader in the Senate. Nick, I just want to say congratulations to you. I'm so proud that the School Foundation is honoring you at this occasion, and I want you to know how much I respect and love you and all of your family.
I want to tell you about the most unusual thing that happened between the Honorable Nick Zeigler and myself. I looked up one morning when I entered the Sunday school class, and there was this gentleman who I had met that was the chancellor. He was a former legislator, he's an attorney, and the most impressive thing, he was a chosen child of God. And that impressed me. And when he came to the podium to take over the information that he was going to impart to those of us who were there for the Sunday school class, I really braced myself to find out what I was going to hear. And what I heard was the words that came, in my estimation, a man of God.
Back in 1953, Judge Ashton Williams here in Florence County became very concerned about the fact that there were so many fatherless or single-parent children, particularly boys, who were coming before the court. And so he asked Mr. Zeigler to head a committee to study the issue and to make some recommendations as to how we might address that problem. So Mr. Zeigler, in his research, discovered that there was an organization, Big Brothers of America, that had 50 years of experience in working with single-parent children. And so he contacted them and talked with them about the possibility of starting a chapter here in the PD area. But he learned two things right away. One was that there were no chapters of Big Brothers south of the Mason-Dixon line. The second thing was there were no Big Brother agencies in any rural areas throughout the United States. But as you know, Mr. Zeigler's pretty persistent, and so he began talking with them and helped them to see and even to become excited and intrigued by the possibility of an expansion down south. And when he finished talking with them, Mr. Charlie Berwin, who was president of Big Brothers of America, and the National Executive Director, Mr. John Tigger, had agreed to come actually to Florence and assist with the logistics of starting this organization. And so actually on July 14th, 1953, the PD Area Big Brother Association was born.
Nick Zeigler personifies the concept of the Renaissance man, building a legacy as an attorney, public servant, naval officer, educator, playwright, gardener, scholar, spouse, and father. Knowing someone like Nick is exciting. The breadth of his interests make him a fun person to be around, and his keen intellect, deep sense of humanity, and personal warmth assure that any time spent with Nick will be rewarding. When I think of Nick, the image that pops into my head isn't of him on the bridge of an aircraft carrier during World War II, or standing in a courtroom battling big tobacco in Wyndham versus American brands, or sitting at his desk working on a new book. Instead, I recall a chance meeting at Riverbanks Zoo. I was walking the trail through the woods from the garden down to the bridge, and in front of me I saw a family group, and bringing up the rear was an elderly gentleman in a seersucker suit. And Nick, that was you. And again, I just want to thank you for everything you've done for Florence and for the state of South Carolina.
I have known Mr. Zeigler for over 50 years. We have been friends. He was my legal advisor. He is a very dedicated person to this community. We are very blessed to have him as a citizen of this city. At the time that he was senator, he appointed me to the PD Regional Council of Government Board, and I've been on that board ever since. And I have known he and his wife, and they are very, very dedicated to this community and very good citizens. And I feel blessed to have known him as long as I have.
Nick, you and I got to know each other intimately in the days when you were on the State Board of Corrections and I was Public Affairs Director. A huge responsibility on your part. You were chairman of the board for a while, and it was interesting to watch you and honor you and remember you as a person who tried to balance and succeeded in your core values of humanity and the value of human life and human beings with the security of the institution. It was a tough job and a huge responsibility. The federal courts were watching us, and you succeeded tremendously in a job that was totally thankless. Your love of and devotion to the arts and the humanities inspired me to become involved as a board member on the South Carolina Philharmonic, the Columbia Museum of Art, the State Foundation for Arts and History, and the South Carolina Humanities Council. And while on the Humanities Council, I was delighted to nominate you and have you selected as a recipient of the Governor's Humanities Award. Well-deserved, and of all the dozens of folks I've seen who got that award, you were absolutely the most qualified, and it was such a proud day to be with you when you received that award.
It was my lucky day when I received a letter from Senator Zeigler during my freshman year at the University of South Carolina, notifying me that I had been selected to be a page for Senator Zeigler in the South Carolina Senate. this was another opportunity for me to observe one of the great South Carolinians of all time. The standard he set in the Senate, his passion for the important issues of the day, the thoroughness with which he looked at every bill, the preparation that he put into preparing his speeches for the Senate set him apart from other senators at that time. Senator Zeigler, you are one of the great South Carolinians of all time. I can think of no one who is more deserving to be named the Distinguished Graduate of Florence School District 1. In fact, in my opinion, you're the greatest graduate in history of Florence School District 1. Congratulations.